fundraising. It's had negative connotations for so many years. Where does the money go? How is it spent? Why is it that certain people who have more money to give may have more influence over the process? These are all questions that were in my mind for so many years, but after taking full-time job on this campaign 19 months ago as the Senator's Deputy Finance Director of Northern California, I learned that it doesn't have to be that way. It does not have to be the same. A little bit about my story, because I think a lot of us have this in common. Many of us are first-time campaigners. Many of us, for the first time, feel compelled enough to get out and to do something about the state of our government and the state of our country. And we're doing it behind a candidate who said something that resonated with me when he announced for president in Springfield. He said, "This campaign is not so much about me as it is about you and what you can do to affect change through me." That is why here in Northern California we have hundreds of people on this block activated, energized, and ready to go out and to affect the change we so desperately need in this country. You know, my story is a little bit different. I went over here at UC Berkeley Law School, graduated in 2005, so I got a lot of love for this area. Quite familiar. And at UC Berkeley you learn so many things, both in the book and outside of the book. But one thing we learn, especially here in Berkeley generally, and in the East Bay and the Bay Area, Northern California, is that we need to pursue our passion and follow our heart. It's not so much about pursuing the dollar sign as it is about waking up in the morning and feeling like you're doing something to help affect change, even if it's just a little bit. So after law school, I went off to this law firm over in San Francisco, a great place, made pretty good money, and did some pretty good work. But then I heard this guy, Senator Barack Obama from Hawaii, was going to go ahead and announce for president. Well, after reading his book, Dreams from My Father, which I recommend you read, I started to learn that this guy's a little bit different. He's the best of both worlds. A white mother from Kansas, a black father from Africa. He is able to bridge a gap that has existed in this country since the beginning. He is able to create empathy when empathy has been missing so much from our society. He's able to say to this group, hey, we've got this in common with this group, and go to the next group and say the same thing. And then here you find, again, hundreds of people out here from all sorts of backgrounds, age, gender, sexual orientation. We're all coming together for a common cause. We're all Americans, and we believe in what we can do with this country. We believe in our potential, and that's why we're here. That's why we're here doing something that a lot of us have never done before, which is testing our comfort zone. Many of us have never made a phone call to a random person to say, hey, this is why I believe in this movement, and you ought to take a look, and hopefully we can have your support too. Many of us in this crowd have never gone up and knocked on a door and said, hello. There you go. Students for Obama. Students for Obama. That's right. The young boys and girls in that bus have a lot to do with why we're out here today. That is the future. This campaign is the future. After spending only 16 months at this law firm, I decided to leave. I said, I'm going to take a leave of absence indefinitely, and I'm going to put my heart and soul in what has become more of a movement than it has a political campaign. Been all throughout the country during the primary season, spent 5 weeks in Iowa, organizing, knocking on doors in weather that I don't think many of us Californians know what it's about. I mean, 20 below zero, knocking on doors, fingers freezing, saying, this is why I'm all the way out here. Because we've got one chance. It's a rare occasion when we can change the course of history in this country. And that moment is now. And if we come together, and if we make phone calls, and if we reach out to our family and our friends, and if we say, hey, look, this is a moment for us to seize. It's going to be a tough battle for the next couple months, but it's one that I trust that we can win if we put our minds and our hearts to it. That's why you all are here today. That's why over the next 61 days, each and every one of us are going to do a little bit to affect that change. Now see, there's a difference between just change and change we can believe in. Over the last 7+ years, we've experienced change. We've experienced change going abroad and learning that our credibility as Americans has been squandered. We have gone to learn that our government has not represented our interests of people, but has represented the interests of the private people, the very few in Washington, D.C., influencing policy by way of money. Well, as the finance director of Northern California, I will tell you this. We did accept public financing. And how so? Because our average contribution is less than $100. People are giving $5, people are giving $10, people are giving $20 to fund one of the most robust, aggressive grassroots campaign in the history of American politics. So, in closing, we have experienced change for the worse. But what's at stake here is change that we can believe in. So again, for the next 61 days, go beyond your comfort level. Engage people. Look them in the eye. Passion is contagious. People will understand why you're supporting this candidate and this movement. Do everything you've got so that come November 4th, at this very office, there's going to be 3 times the number of people out here celebrating a new administration and a new future for the United States of America. Thank you so much. Keep working, keep up the good work.
Chris Young, Finance Director for Northern California, Obama for America. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Cindy.
First of all, what do you think of Senator McCain's selection of Governor Palin as his running mate and what she said last night, particularly regarding community organizing and Senator Obama?
Well, you know, I think that we've got to step back and we've got to realize that we've got a very respectable man running for president on the Republican side. John McCain has done incredible things for the country, has served our country for several years, not only domestically but abroad and in war as a POW. You know, that said, however, it was a clear indication to me personally, not so much from the campaign standpoint, that the Republicans have to do something incredibly provocative and sort of you know, relatively out of left field to sustain themselves in a very tough race against an opponent, Barack Obama. You know, I think that Governor Palin has probably served her state well. She has probably, by her measure, represented the interests of people in her state. As a mayor from her hometown, she had experience in that realm as well. Now, all that said, you know, experience has been a big issue in this campaign, and experience can be sort of thought of in several ways. One way could be experience as a community organizer, where responsibilities deal specifically with helping better the lives of individuals. Now, if that is not a responsibility, I don't know what is. If it is not, if responsibility does not involve waking up each morning, having traveled from an Ivy League school out to the south side of Chicago to follow your dreams, your heart, your passion for helping others, and to wake up each morning and try to energize and to pump passion and faith into a community that has witnessed and that has undergone a spiral of crime and decay and unemployment, I'm not sure what responsibility means. Barack Obama lent his life out to a community he had never met before, a community within which he had never worked. And yet, by the end of his stint as a community organizer, what I regard as one of the most significant and admirable jobs in the country and abroad, you know, he did tremendous work with that community to help them realize what's possible if they come together, if they organize on their behalf, if they represent their interests, if they speak out on their own behalf. Then you can affect change. He was inspired by a young mayor at the time. He saw what you could do through politics, and just short of, I think, 5 years as a community organizer, or 4, he went ahead and went off to law school because he knew that a law degree would help him affect change in a more efficient way. There were limits to what he could do as a community organizer. Now, as a governor of a town that I think amounts to essentially the few hundred people who gathered tonight at the campaign headquarters, you know, obviously there is responsibility, but it's a matter of degree. If on the continuum of, if there's a continuum and there's substantial responsibility on one end and no responsibility on the other, I would submit to you that Barack has had a tremendous amount of responsibility just as a community organizer. And that doesn't go on to mention what he does as state senator and the reform he effected by way of ethics, by way of health insurance for children, death penalty reform, requiring that all interrogations are taped when there are capital crimes. That is responsibility. And it's not only responsibility, it's responsibility that he translated into success and to strong representation of people. So, I think that there's no doubt Senator Barack Obama has had a great deal of responsibility during his political career, or his life generally. If you look just from an objective standpoint at what Governor Palin has done, I think there are several who would argue that she has not had substantial responsibility, certainly not responsibility sufficient to lead the American people if one day she was in that position. The stakes are really high right now. We saw a school bus that passed full of children, and the crowd turned and screamed. And the reality is, that is our future. We are our future, and it's in our hands now. We've got 61 days to take a hold of our country, to bring it back, and to say to us and the rest of the world, this is who America is, this is what we believe in, and this is what we can do if we realize that we've got more in common than we are different. So I take issue with any sort of comments suggesting that being a community organizer is not a position of responsibility. I think that logic and that train of thought, again from an objective standpoint, causes some concern.